Okay, it started, babe.
We are waiting.
What do you mean?
We're waiting for the lag.
Oh.
You want us
We
to press
wait and then
record
we
up there?
decide to start sometimes.
Welcome to From the Ground Up. So a few things to get out of the way, as usual, Theportcitypythons.com. We do have some animals available. We actually just took pictures of a bunch of animals. By we, I mean Melissa struggled to take pictures of crazy babies that were moving all over the place. And we're going to get them up on the website as well as Morph Market and all that good stuff soon. So look out for that. And as always, t-shirts. And if you guys haven't seen, I am distributing a product called Gaps Ecosys, and that is a cocoa product. It is certified organic. And if you're interested in something like that, it is right now being distributed at the wholesale level. So if you're interested in something like that, just give me a ring. Is that a good way to say it?
Call me, beat me if you want to reach me.
Ew, that sounds not good.
What?
Message me on Instagram, Facebook.
That's a classic line from our childhood.
Oh, that maybe your childhood, but okay. Someone messaged me today.
Okay.
I want to get this out of the way real quick.
I want to get that you don't understand Kim Possible references.
No. I got a message today, and it seems like, I always encourage everyone to reach out always, and I always answer everything. But I got a message today on Facebook of this guy taking out his ball and having a gator bite it. So if you guys, I always encourage you to reach out, but if you want to send me pictures of your cousin Bob taking out his nut in some redneck bonfire.
Ball connected to your body.
Like testicle, yes.
Oh.
Yes, and the gator munched down on his testicle.
Why did he send you that?
I don't know, but you can stop it. I also get this guy who sends me pictures of bees stinging him or wasps stinging him. So I know it's probably not anyone on this podcast because you guys are intelligent people. Just know that I don't want to see anyone's nutsack or anyone's nutsack being bit by an alligator.
Oh my God. Did you respond?
No.
I would respond like, I don't want this. Like, please, no more.
Please, no more nutsack. I mean, I think you only have one of those. Does he have multiple nutsack gator videos? And it was like, it's not like it was from YouTube. It was like, it seemed straight from his fucking phone. Yeah.
He cell phone video.
So respect, I guess, for thinking of me, but
right? Why did they think? Oh, I really need to send this.
I'm sure
Port City
he will
Pythons.
really enjoy this alligator nutsack video, and like, so yeah, that just happened like an hour ago. So I wanted to mention that, and now I know there's gonna be some smartasses out there sending me weird videos now, but.
Oh, someone sent it to Brian Holt, so we aren't the only one. Maybe it's like a spam thing going around.
Why would you? What do you get out of that?
Someone enjoys it. I don't know who. I also feel like before we introduce our guests, we have to acknowledge the elephant on the camera screen.
What are you talking about? We already talked about.
We talked about that not on our own, and people are already asking. So
I don't know. I don't see anything.
Do you want to admit, or do you want to talk?
Well, some people are listening on audio and they don't know what's going on. All right, she is very disappointed that I have a black eye, and she thinks that it matters. For me, I think it looks cool, and I don't care.
Well, people are already asking about it, so it matters.
Well, yeah, I didn't get bit in the face. I just got punched in the face. Your average black eye. But yeah, can we move on from that?
Yeah.
Not enough about my appearance. Jeez.
Okay.
So today we have on Dallas Rua of Rua Colubrids. So Dallas, I know you just had your first clutch of corn snakes, and we're trying to kind of flip perspectives as far as getting new blood per se in the hobby and everything like that. So could you give us a quick intro of who you are, where you're from, and kind of how you got into reptiles?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously I'm Dallas. Wife and I got into reptiles about 3.5 years ago. Did some research for probably about 2 or 3 months. We've always wanted snakes, but we wanted to make sure we did it right. So, did our research, set the tanks up, ended up going to Repticon down in Sarasota, actually, and picked up 2 beautiful corn snakes. We got a caramel sun-kissed tessera and an Aniri sun-kissed tessera. So those were the OG two. Those were the first two, and it's kind of just snowballed from there. Just about anybody in the reptile hobby knows, once you start, it's pretty addictive. So
for sure.
Yeah,
So you ended up moving, and why did you end up moving, and how was it moving with the snakes that you had? Did you only have those 2 snakes at the time?
No. So when we moved we just moved from Florida up to Alabama, just for some better job opportunities and such. Moving with the snakes was interesting. We had, a 26-foot U-Haul, and I was towing my truck behind that. She had the snakes in her truck. At that point, we had both corn snakes. We had the jungle python, carpet. We had the ball python. And I believe that was it at the time. And then we actually acquired a white-sided black rat snake since we've gotten here. Rescued that from a friend at work. And then we picked up the 3 Slowinski silverleafs in Texas a couple months ago. And now we've got the corn snake hatching out as well. So collection's grown pretty exponentially in the last 3 or 4 months.
So I guess we'll talk a little bit about your experience breeding corn snakes. So when you picked those up, were they fresh babies or hatchlings?
Yeah, I think they were about maybe a month and a half, 2 months old, maybe 20 grams each. Barely took up any space in the deli cup. I remember when we first got them, being brand new to snakes, we're feeding them a pinky, and the pinky looked like it was just way too big. We're like, there's no way that little snake can get that thing down. And then, we've had them since then. They're both over 300 grams now. One of them's in 4x2x2 behind me, which takes up almost the whole thing. The other one's in a 40 breeder, just as big. So yeah, definitely from babies. We wanted to do that as opposed to getting something that was already an adult. That way we can kind of work with it and learn the temperament and stuff like that. So it's definitely been an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah, I think that's always interesting when people want to buy adults, especially for their first time. And
I do, but that's just because I'm impatient.
Yeah, but if it's your first time breeding, then it's like you've never even had a baby. Now you have 14 babies to grow up. And I feel like it's certainly a shortcut, but I mean, that must be overwhelming because you don't even know how small they start out, and they're tiny.
Oh, and for sure. And even when we got ours, like I said, they were about 20 grams. Some of the corns that we're hatching out now are maybe, single digits as far as gram weight. And they are just, 5 inches long and super, super small. So it's definitely interesting to see them at that size and see them at their current breeding size and know all of the trials and tribulations along the way.
Absolutely. So speaking of trials and tribulations, did you end up brewmating that pair?
Actually, no. So there was no brumation. I had read a bunch about it. The 3 rule, the 3 years, 300 grams, 3 feet, etc. But my female was actually acting really twitchy. She was just kind of all over her enclosure. I decided to just throw them together on a whim just to, see what would happen if I introduced them. So I put both of them in on one side of the bed. By the time I got to the other side of the bed to grab my phone and take a picture, they were already courting and locking up. So, I mean, it happened within, a minute or two. So I just let that, kind of roll. Wasn't really expecting it. And then I ended up locking them up again about 3 or 4 days after that, just to kind of make sure that we can get a viable clutch out of it. So.
And it seems like you're hatching kind of late. So what month you ended up pairing them up?
I don't off the top of my head. I have it written down. I know that the eggs were laid on July 7th. So, I mean, give or take 30 to 40 days before that was when they were locked up. I don't have it off the top of my head, though.
Yeah, and for perspective, because we brewmate and we take out and we end up pairing up usually March or so, and we're usually at our latest double clutches will be like early July or something like that. So, and usually our pairs are harder to get together. Like they don't go together immediately. Like yours must have been so ready to go at that point, and they just went, like that. And it's crazy because clearly these things like want to breed, and obviously she must have held on the follicles for a certain amount of time in order for her to get the job done.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a really rewarding feeling to know that, we took these things from babies, brought them all the way up, and, they've had such a good life and been thriving so much that they were ready to go. So it feels really good to, to have them do that and know that we did a good job along the way.
And what did you do after that pair? I mean, were you feeding heavy before then, or did you do any preparation, or you were just like, now's the time and just went for it?
Completely on a whim. I did not, power feed beforehand. I didn't do, unfortunately, any calcium or anything like that. No extra supplements. She was getting her regular adult mouse about every 8 to 10 days, sometimes more if we're busy or forget, stuff like that. But no extra feeding, no anything special. I just locked them up, and then it was a waiting game. Coming home from work every day just to be like, oh, is she laying anything yet? I probably put a lay box in there 2 or 3 weeks after they locked up, just to give her something humid to hang out in, which she did every day. So of course, every day she's in there, I'm coming home and checking on everything. I'm very impatient and anxious, and wanted it to happen. Finally came home, and there was just a beautiful clutch of 13 perfectly white eggs, and separated those out, started incubating. So
sweet, that's not bad for a first clutch. And I know, like, when you have one clutch, it's the worst as far as waiting for things, because you're always waiting for whether it's to lay eggs, whether it's to hatch and everything. So how'd you end up setting up those 13 eggs?
So I put them in a little bit of vermiculite. I soaked the vermiculite, wrung it out so it wasn't sopping wet. Threw those in a 6-quart shoebox tub and put that actually on the hatchling rack, which is usually kept at about 80 degrees for the heat tape. And I just pretty much left them there for a while.
And it was a while.
Yeah. So like they were laid on the 7th of July. Like I said, I believe today is like day 70 something, if I'm not keeping track.
And typically clutches hatch out from usually around 55, or we've seen like 52 to 57. We've obviously had those. We've had it go 90 days or so. But I mean, for your first clutch, you're like at day 55, you're probably freaking out.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, like I said, we had actually ended up losing 5 of the eggs around day maybe 58 to 60. They started denting. Everything looked perfect. We're like, okay, cool. They're denting. They're ready to go. They're going to pop out any day now. And unfortunately, 2 of them, when I candled them after they had started denting, just looked clear all the way through. Nothing in there, no veins, which sucked. And then the other 3 were just so dented they looked like there was no chance that there was anything in there. Candled it, looked really small, half hollow, whatever. So we ended up cutting those 3 open just to kind of see. They were all stillborns, so we said, we'll just go ahead and wait a little bit, see what happens with these other with the remaining eggs. And about what is it, 13th, they started denting again. First one popped out a beautiful little tester baby. After that, it was 2 days before anything else pipped. We were getting a little worried, so I put a real small incision in each one just to kind of check, make sure everything was still good. They're all good. They're all about to grow. So
sweet.
Stuff like that is always so interesting to me. Like, I know obviously birth is never, 1-for-1. But like with some of ours, it was like the first one would pip, and then it'd be like 3 days before any others, and it freaked me out the whole time. Then with other ones, it's like, oh, they're all pipping, they're all pipping right now. Like I don't know if there is any rhyme or reason to it, or of how it all, or it's just all, chance of how fast, quickly they all pit, you know?
And you know what's weird? I always feel that when the ones that come out early, some of them are like the healthiest of the clutch, some of them are the smallest of the clutch, some of them eat well, some of them
Right.
don't eat well. I mean, it seems like they come out for different reasons at different times. So, I mean, maybe if I actually tracked every baby that came out first and last, we would see some type of difference, which I started doing that this year. And then I was like, oh, damn, this is way too much work once there was like 3 clutches at the same time. Because and then you have to separate the babies before they have their first shed.
Right, to see what's what.
Yeah, so it's like, so you don't jumble it up. So it's
We'll
not
just
even
keep
the
wondering.
best. Yeah.
We'll just keep wondering and leave it at that.
Yeah, we've got ours numbered in little deli cup style tubs. You know, first one out, second one, third one. The first one out looks like he soaked up every single bit of yolk he could. He's got a huge food belly, looks super healthy. Second one's a little bit smaller, so obviously there's definitely a lot of variation in there.
Yeah, and I've had, I mean, some of the small ones you always think are like going to be bad eaters or something, and then they will end up being your best eaters. So there's no
It doesn't seem like there's a connection to any of it.
Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed as far as the eating thing goes. I've heard horror stories of, you know, having a first shed and then no food for the next month and a half, and you start getting panicked. You know, do I force feed? Do I assist feed? And you know, all these other questions come up. So I'm just fingers crossed, letting it ride. Hopefully everything works out.
So how many? You still got some in the eggs, right?
Yeah. So there's still, let me see, 1, 2. There's still 4 in the eggs. 2 are actually currently pipping, faces out. And then there's 3 that are in their own tubs right now. So
I wish we still had ones in the eggs.
Yeah,
feels like our
bad.
season or like that time was so long ago. I mean, it was like what, July?
But then think about it, September, and then we're gonna have to put them back down in November or December. So it all comes back around.
Our situation than his.
yeah, for sure. That was actually something I was thinking about, is that obviously we got the late start without brumating and then just throwing them together on a whim. So my thought was that when everybody else's babies are already, you know, 6, 7 months old and they're already sold out, we'll just be having fresh hatchlings to take to a show and kind of see if anybody wants a hatchling later in the year. So
yeah, that's really what the guys who like have much larger collections or have facilities and stuff, and they'll run half of their collection will brumate in the summer, half of it will brumate in the winter, so that they always have stock year round.
Right. It definitely makes sense if you've got a bigger collection and the facility to do it. But we weren't set up for that. So
is that something you want to do soon?
No, just because I can't manage doing all those things at one time. I want to be able to keep it straight enough. I mean, just put them all at once. We don't have enough snakes really to make that make sense. Also, we already have a rhythm going on. So what I would have to do is right after a female laid, put them into brumation, or take a year off and then put them into brumation in the summer.
We don't have enough to take a year off.
Yeah. So it's not really that feasible.
For the guys that do that, it just seems like so much extra work to pay attention to, making sure you brumate properly and take care of hatchlings at the same time. It's like, that's crazy.
And heat a room in the winter and cool a room in the summer. You know, like you're always working against
the electric bill must be insane at that point.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, maybe, if you can handle that electric bill / all that time and effort. So do you think that you will be, first of all, do you think you will be breeding 2 years in a row? And do you think you're going to brumate next year?
So we may do the brumation just to see how that affects this pair. You know, we'll put them down in a couple of months at that point. We're definitely going to breed again next year. They're both back up to healthy weight already. She's already back up to 340, I think, something like that. So I mean, they're both super healthy. Like I said, we may end up brumating just to kind of see if that affects more or less eggs or whatever the case is. But this pair is definitely getting locked up again in the upcoming season. And then we're looking for a male carpet to pair with the one behind me here, as well as a male white-sided black rat snake to pair with that. So we'll have quite a few pairings going on next year. ball python doesn't get bred. He's just a normal. He's just the house pet for now. So
Sweet. So I mean, it's going to be a lot easier to get everyone on the same schedule, and then I think you'll definitely have better health as far as the eggs go. You obviously got a good amount of eggs, so like the female was primed and ready, because honestly, we don't get that many eggs, even though our females are small. I mean, we don't, even though corn snakes obviously can, but
right.
Well, it's interesting. Someone in our chat, Matthew McCormick, said that he's bred corn snakes twice and hasn't brumated either time, and he got 40 eggs.
That's a lot of eggs, and
That's
that's probably a very large female.
I don't know if he's saying 20 into like I'm assuming 40 eggs over both times.
I don't know. You never know. They can drop 40.
But isn't that crazy? That like, you know, we talk so much about brooming and all this. He didn't broomate.
Well, if you feed all year round, but then again, I'm worried about the longevity of animals at that point, to be honest.
Of not brumating?
No, of feeding. First of all, I think that the corn snakes, they need a break from food for a certain amount of time, whether that is brumating or whether that is when it gets a little bit cooler in your room for the winter, slow it down to 2 to 3 weeks or 3 weeks instead of 2 to 3. I think that they need kind of a factory reset in a way, in one way or another. And
for sure.
And so it's like, if you're just running them hot all the time and feeding them all the time, you may be able to get 40 egg clutches or something, but I don't know how long.
No, 40 was over both clutches.
Okay. So that's pretty,
so
that makes a little bit more sense.
20,
it's still a lot, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for 20, we're not even getting 20 at all. Hopefully this year.
Yeah. Once we get everyone more in a rhythm.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Like, I'd be too nervous not to, brumate, but it's interesting that people have success with it.
Well, I've also done it not brumating, so that's what I did last year.
Oh, really? Oops,
yeah,
I forgot that.
Yeah, was that the year that you guys had the issue with the outside closet with the heater going down?
Yeah.
Well, no,
that was brumating 2 years ago.
No, that was this year. This batch of babies who ended up perfectly fine and everything was perfect. And also, what I found. We had things like vitality issues and stuff in just that clutch that we got when we didn't brumate. So I wonder if there's something to that, or I just cycled them better. Because we had a lot of eggs, but we had a lot of babies with kinks, and we had a lot of babies. But I think that might have also been incubation. So it's hard to tell.
Okay.
But
that clutch had
it's always hard to pinpoint what exactly happened and where it happened along the line without cutting. So
yeah, we also moved with those eggs. So not that we didn't, I mean,
right.
So that's not really the best thing.
I mean, we only moved in the city with those eggs.
Right. And then we moved. I didn't realize that the closet was 85 when they were always kind of at 78 or so. And then that's probably why we got kinks and different things going on. What's the question?
Yeah, I actually read that changing the temperature of incubation halfway through is actually really detrimental. Provides a lot of kinks, a lot of other defects and stuff like that. We were getting nervous around the 60, 65 day mark, and we're like, oh, well, maybe they need to be a little bit warmer, so we'll bump the heat up a little bit. We did some reading, and we're like, let's not do that just yet. We don't want to kill everything off. So it turned out all right.
I've seen things to where people say that there's no problem with temperature swings as far as incubation goes. But I think, maybe if once you're stable, stay stable, don't do both. Because I heard that the Loves used to, they weren't too concerned with keeping the temperature at constant. They would have night drops and stuff like that. But I always played it safe and just said, this is going to be 80 degrees flat out as much as possible. But that's just...
for sure. I definitely learned that next year breeding, I'll probably look into either building or purchasing some type of incubator system. Like I said, we just had them in a 6-quart shoebox on the hatchling rack, but with the heat tape, the way it's set up, and the fact that I like my room super cold at night when I sleep, it definitely fluctuates a little bit more. I was going to look at getting an old drink cooler or something like that I can throw them in and keep the temperature a little bit more constant the whole time.
That's the thing. I know. Well, I know some old school colubrid breeders that will they don't even have an incubator, but they'll have an old fridge or a really good insulated cooler, so that even if the temperature isn't controlled inside, it's gonna fluctuate less just because of all that insulation.
Right, and it's a smaller space to worry about heating and cooling and everything like that. So
didn't your dad give us one?
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I'm going to. I always did top shelf just because I keep the reptile room. I'm kind of crazy about keeping the temperature where it is. So you know that it's only swung. You can see the high and lows on the thermostat, and my swing is from 78 to 81, and 78 rarely happens, and 81 is more regular. But a 3-degree swing is one thing. If it's 76 and then 85, I think that's kind of a different.
You think there'd be that much swing in the little wine coolers?
Yeah.
I think it would be more. No, it would be more constant for sure, but I don't think it matters that much. I think it matters, but not that much.
But
if
why
that makes
not
any
use
sense.
it if we have it?
Well, because we're just gonna have too many clutches to put in that little wine cooler.
So I can use it for wine? Is what you're saying?
You can use it for wine.
Yeah.
So how are you setting up? I mean, obviously you have these like amazing enclosures behind you. What are you setting up the babies in?
So the babies are actually in these little black deli cup style containers here. It's about 4 or 5 inches by 8 to 10. Fits the babies pretty well, and plenty of room to drill holes for ventilation and whatnot. I was going to put them in the traditional clear plastic deli cups, but those are a little harder to source out. I don't want to pay for shipping for 100 or 500 of them. I got these at Walmart. It was a pack of 15 for a couple bucks, $8 or something like that. So they're in there. They've got a paper towel, a water bowl, and like a toilet paper tube for a hide, just to give them some kind of security in there.
Okay, so that's similar to us / everyone else that really keeps colubrids in numbers. Because I don't know if people realize how small they come out and how easy they would be to lose if you put them in pretty much anything else.
Oh, for sure. And I doing the research throughout this whole process, I was consulting with people like you guys and some of the other breeders in the industry, and reading a lot of forums. And I was reading some forums, and there was just horror stories of people that are posting up, I've got my hatchling corn snake in a 20-gallon long and he's not eating. It's like, he's freaked out right now. Of course he's not eating. Or cohabiting them together. I've got 15 hatchlings in an XYZ tank, and some of them aren't eating, some of them are dying, whatever's going on. So definitely a lot of research throughout this whole process, and trying to do things the right way for the betterment of the animals.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the difference between people who are successful at doing this, whether it's breeding or keeping, is that someone like you, who obviously we've talked and you came over and saw our collection and stuff, but it's not like you asked me, how do I keep my corn snake or anything? Like, you found the Googleable shit. Like, you did the Googleable.
Right.
Like you did the self-research in order to know what the hell you're doing, For
sure. Yeah, that's always one of my things. Anytime I talk to definitely somebody that's obviously been in the game longer than I have, I hate asking questions that I can find out on my own via Google. When I ask people questions, I want to know, personal experiences or things that did or didn't work for you. I don't want to say, well, what temperature do I keep my corn snake at? There's 100 pages on Google that I can find that on. So I always like to try to pick brains and find the personal side of the hobby, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you've done a good job at just branching out to the short time that you've been doing it in comparison to the amount of people that who are legit as fuck. And I'm not putting us in that category, but but you've managed to
you guys
build a good network.
Category for me. I had looked up to you guys a long time before I was breeding, for sure. I had followed a lot of the podcasts. It was you guys, and back in the day I was listening to Bullshit and NPR for sure. But anybody that's got more snakes than me, I'm looking up to, because you're doing something right for the most part. Obviously, I mean, there's not a lot of people that have huge collections that are doing stuff wrong. Otherwise, they wouldn't have those huge collections anymore. So,
for sure.
And I think kind of like what you're saying, there's a way to talk to people who you have questions to and not annoy the shit out of them. That's really like, we become friends with Dallas simply because he reached out to you and asked questions. And like, we are willing to do that with anyone. But then there's those people who just annoy the shit out of us. And it's like, I just want to be able to say, like, we want to answer your questions. We want to become friends with you. Like, there's just a way to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but if you come with a base of knowledge,
the way that Dallas did it, there's a way to do it that it's like, oh yeah, like I want to talk to this person.
So that's what I'm wondering, what exactly you did that someone who, say, maybe they're listening to this and they're like all alone in their reptile life. I mean, kind of like how I was. I felt so scared to talk to anyone who was, quote, legit or bigger than me, because I didn't want to seem like a bother. So how did you kind of go about doing so?
I kind of I just go for things. A lot of forums and stuff like that online, I'll kind of, creep on those and read a lot before I start commenting, stuff like that. But I just found people that I looked up to, and I just reached out and I said, hey, this is a situation, my wife and I have, XYZ animals. We're trying to do this. Any extra tips that you can give that I can't find anywhere else. It's worked out pretty well. Talking to you guys, I've reached out to Eric at one point. Cody and Pia at Terrestrial and Boreal have been very, very helpful for us. So yeah, just reaching out for any kind of info. If I get shot down, I get shot down. But it is what it is at that point. So I either situation smarter, or I learn that I can't ask that person questions anymore. So.
Yeah, and I guess some people are more receptive to it, no matter what. I mean, some people, even for this podcast, how many people we reach out to and big time us in one way or another. That's like, all right, man. Whether you don't want to be on, or whether you think you're too busy to be on or something. I don't know. I mean, it happens, and there's going to be an amount of people that don't get back to you or don't follow through.
Right.
I don't know if we'll ever.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely appreciate you guys having me on. So.
No,
yeah,
of course.
Stop. I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where like we don't feel a little nervous to reach out to some people. Maybe.
Yeah, like I've been debating reaching out to like Tom Crutchfield forever, but then in order to get him to use Google Hangout, if he says yes, and then in order to use Google Hangouts, I'm kind of scared to bring him through the whole thing.
This is actually happening now. Like, what do I do at this point?
Yeah.
But, to hear people talk, like, so hear you talk about that and reaching out to Crutchfield is a little bit nerve wracking for you. One of the people in the industry I know, Anna, she'll talk about him. She's like, oh, I'm going to his house to have lunch and we're doing this and that. And I was like, well, that's really cool, because you're hanging out with somebody that I look up to. So now I look up to you by association. It kind of just puts them in a different category at that point.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we're not in the Crutchfield.
We're not the association even. We're scared. Like Dan, who it's so frustrating because we were on the edge of like reaching out to Dan for so long, and then NPR got it right. He was on, he was on Bill's, right? He's on someone.
Jeff Godbold.
Godbold. He's on Godbold. Yeah, it's so that's the hardest part, is when I know I'm like, okay, like don't be a wuss, and then we're wusses and we don't reach out to someone, and then we see someone else got him. I'm like, gosh darn it, we should have reached out to that person. Like they probably would have said yes because they said yes to this other person, but now we feel like we definitely can't.
And now I feel like not bothering them twice in a row.
Right. They were just on someone else's podcast, so I feel like we can't. It's just
right. Like I know it was 2 weeks ago. You want to come on our podcast and say the same shit?
Right.
I could see how that would stir the nerves a little bit.
Yeah. What I wanted to get into before we went off kind of to left field was I wanted to go to the fact that obviously you don't have a large collection, and you clearly have more grand enclosures than what we have. So tell us a little bit of what you keep everything in and what your kind of philosophy on that is.
So behind me, and actually down on the floor, there's one more as well. These are 4x2x2 old school Andrew Kelly green tree python tanks. I got these from Cody and Pia Terrestrial and Arboreal. There was some pretty famous, I guess you could say famous, GTPs kept, Mardu being one of them. As far as the philosophy of keeping the snakes, I definitely just want the animals to thrive. I kind of do my own mixture of bedding. Animals that are arboreal, they get perches, etc. But yeah, I try to make sure that the animals are thriving. I'm constantly reading. Amanda's constantly reading. What we can do to better the enclosures, stuff like that. We were thinking about doing some bio setups, but we're not quite there yet. Yeah, these tanks are great. They're sliding glass, hold humidity great, heat panels up top, so there's no underbelly heat or anything like that. But they've been great for us so far. So.
For sure.
Did
And
you have? Sorry, I totally cut you off. Did you have them before you moved, or this was all after?
Yeah, so we actually got them. I want to say about a week or two before we moved from Florida to Alabama. We had gone over to their place I think it was for like a July 4th barbecue or something like that. I'm probably wrong on that. I know we went over there for some type of barbecue, Memorial Day or something. Ended up picking them up. And we had them sitting in storage for a week before we threw them all in the truck and brought them up here. But definitely not easy to move with 4 of these. And we actually have 2 more in Florida waiting for us to pick the remaining 2 up. It's a set of 6. It's the only 6 that he ever built. So it's really a pleasure and an honor to have these in the collection, housing these animals.
Sweet. So it's weird because we get caught once you get a certain amount of animals, space becomes an issue. And I don't know if it's a trap. I think it's a little bit of a trap. Like as far as because you can only keep so many, 3-foot or 4-foot enclosures, whatever. Like, what are your thoughts on the future as far as the amount of animals you want to have? And then also, are you going to keep this level of keeping?
So as far as the amount of animals we want to have, easiest way I can describe that is the sky's the limit. We're currently looking for a couple of king snakes. We're going to be going to a show coming up here in October. So we're always kind of adding to the collection, stuff like that. As far as space goes, obviously, it definitely takes up a lot of space. We don't have a designated reptile room in the house. So all of them are in our room currently. And just to give you a quick look around, I mean, you've got one wall here. This whole wall is those 3 tanks. There's another one on the floor with a 40 breeder on top. Then you got a hatchling rack on that wall. So that wall's already taken up. And then behind me, there's a 20-gallon long with a couple of turtles in there. So, reptiles on every wall as of right now. As far as the future goes, we will probably start doing a lot more racks and tubs just to be able to save some space. And even with the tubs, we will try to let the animals thrive. We'll give them good bedding, perches. I'm going to find a way to do some kind of lighting system on a timer, etc. I love the tanks and the way the enclosures look, but definitely a space issue for sure.
Yeah. Now, someone I guess you kind of touched on it, so I'll ask it. Someone in the chat was wondering, what's your opinion on UV or UVB? Are those UV lights, or do you just like the light cycle?
So these actually are UVB and UVA lights. I definitely enjoy them. I feel like it definitely helps the animal thrive a little bit more. In the wild, obviously, they get natural sunlight, so vitamin D and all that other stuff. So the lights definitely help. They look great. They don't run too hot. The electricity bill is definitely, it's a little bit higher, but we've got them on a timer. Lights and heat are both on the timers together. I definitely like having the extra peace of mind for the UVA and B. Otherwise, I've heard of people taking their snakes outside for, an hour or two a week just to kind of hang out, make sure they get some natural sunlight. But to me, that's really one of the only ways that they can thrive. Whether or not they're living, great, but we want them to thrive in captivity. We want to make sure that they have the best life possible. So trying to mimic and replicate natural, elements is the best thing that we can do for the animals.
Taking them outside is something I feel like almost all of our close friends in the reptile world do, but it scares the shit out of me. I just feel like
For sure.
immediately. What'd you say?
That I see pictures of, they're taking their animals out and taking pictures of them in the trees and putting them on the ground and this and that. Obviously, at that point, you've got to worry about any type of, mites, bugs, parasites, etc. You've got to worry about escapees. To me, it's a lot of a headache. At that point, I'd rather not lose the animal. I would just invest in the extra light.
Yeah, it's just, it looks awesome when they do it.
Oh,
and
for sure.
Maybe with like our olive or something like that, but like with our squirrely corn snakes, I think they'd be gone in an instant.
Yeah, and that's really the last thing I would want
to happen, all for a picture and some sun. Well, it's not all that. They need sunlight. So wait, what are your thoughts on that? Because we don't give ours any sort of lighting or sunlight. Is that bad?
No, I don't know. I'm more of the old school train of thought to where obviously people have kept the animals, and obviously it is a part of, I have my own line, right? So of course I use bedding on all the animals. And if I don't have them in a dark room or something like that, I do use hides. Otherwise, I'm kind of old school in the fact that I don't believe that UVB or UVA is necessary, even though I feel like a light cycle makes sense. That's why I keep open the windows and I don't have any blacked out tubs. And I used to keep in the closet, but now I don't have to keep in the closet anymore, which is awesome.
Light.
They're not really though, because the thing is, Dallas, no, but the thing is UV rays are mostly blocked out almost 100% through your windows. And that's how our windows are designed. So obviously our windows don't pass heat into our house and we can insulate our house correctly. So UV rays and sunlight, although it will be light in the room, it's not really providing the same thing as the bulb does. Do I think that you need that? No. Is it an issue to where maybe they have a better life if they do? I don't know. And I don't know if anyone has evidence to say yes or no on that. So that's where I am. That's
so just okay.
Yeah, I don't have evidence that it 100%, definitively without a doubt is better. It's just something that we do personally just because we think it may be. On the off chance that, it could be horrible. These light bulbs could be, cancer emitting, snake killing light bulbs. No idea. I really doubt that, but that's just kind of something that we do. Obviously, none of the babies in the hatchling rack have light bulbs. They get the filtered sunlight through the window. So they're on the natural light cycle. And then the turtles don't have UVA, UVB. They just have a heat lamp day and a heat lamp night. And we'll run them outside for about an hour, 2 hours a week. Let them sit outside in the filtered sunlight in the shade somewhere just so they can get that. I don't think that it's 100% necessary. It's just something that we do to kind of try to go the extra mile, if you will.
Now, some people say that it may enhance their color or something, but let's be honest, anything under a daylight bulb, anything under that kind of light looks better. So it's kind of hard to tell, but do you think that there's any enhancing properties to the light as far as coloration on the animals?
That's a tough one. Like you said, I could put them under, a 2000K halogen bulb, and they're probably going to look the same as if I put them under, a really nice 5500, 6000K, reptile specific bulb or something like that. They look great under light regardless. Obviously, the lights go out, or if it's a little bit dimmer, they look duller. That's just what that is. I don't know if certain light bulbs have an effect on how they look or not. I don't know enough about that to determine that.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you kind of mentioned Bioactive. So have you thought about it, and where do you think you're going with that? And Yeah, basically, what are your thoughts on switching over to something bioactive?
So we've definitely thought about it. Again, I'm going to mention Cody and Pia over there at DNA. They have a lot of bio setups for some of their exotic pit viper species. They look great. They perform well. You know, you get the right amount of isopods and you know, little bugs in there. Definitely a lot less cleaning, stuff like that. But to me, it could be a little bit more maintenance. You got to make sure that you don't have mold issues. You got to make sure that your isopod colonies are doing good. And currently, we just don't have the time to invest in swapping everything out right now, making sure that it's all good, buying isopods, everything like that. The bedding we use is, you know, like I said, it's a mixture that I do at home. It's usually, you know, equal parts aspen, peat moss, reptile bark. You know, I might throw in a handful or two of activated charcoal, whatever the case is. And it basically, it looks good. It performs well. We spot clean about every other day or so, but we don't have to do a full bedding change any more than about every 5 to 6 months. It works great, super absorbent, looks good. And we'll throw, you know, some pine needles on top just for looks, kind of give it a naturalistic look as well. We've done leaf litter, but with that, you've got to worry about bugs. So you can freeze it first or whatever the case is. So, but as far as the bio setups, I mean, we would love to have that just for the naturalistic look and the health of the enclosure and the animal as a whole, but it's just not anytime soon for sure.
Yeah, so you're not. So basically, you have the setup all apart from, say, isopods and springtails.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it's everything except for a while we were running like some organic dirt, some like, you know, topsoil, stuff like that. We were finding that it was just making too much of a mess, too expensive to buy, and unfortunately, we were keeping it in the garage in like a big Sterilite tub, and it got too humid. I think it kind of grew its own colony of critters and bacteria, so we had to stop using that. But yeah, essentially, aside from the dirt and the isopod cultures and stuff like that, everything else is pretty much naturalistic as it can be. So
For sure. And that's something that I don't know, I've been getting more into. I don't know if people saw the Amazon enclosure, but I've been just watching videos on fucking plants and all this shit. I have some golden pothos stemmings or whatever growing in the reptile room. And, yeah, I know.
But I mean, at the same
time,
it's.
Go ahead.
No, go.
Oh, okay, well, I was going to say we tried pothos and all three of the enclosures behind me here. Unfortunately, they did not do well with the light cycle that we had the snakes on. It was just getting too much light. They're a better, you know, house plant, quote unquote, up on top of the cabinets or something like that with a little bit less light. And the snakes were crushing them, so we just took the pothos out. I've heard bromeliads are great. They're, you know, pretty tough, hardy plants to throw in there if you're looking for some extra foliage. Personally, you know, if I'm going to do it again, I would go with some big plants. Don't have to water them; they're not going to die. Throw them in there. It looks great, low maintenance. So,
yeah, that's why I went with. Meaning, I wasn't. If I made a corn snake enclosure with all that stuff, it would be destroyed in a day. I think that's also what people need to know. I mean, I did it with the Amazon because it's so light and so nothingness.
Right.
Yeah, like it's not going to really affect much. But your more terrestrial things, especially a big Morelia or something like that. I mean, because they like to move around, and that's going to be an issue at some point, I think, with potted plants, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know though. I mean, our carpet, I'm fairly certain I don't know if she's pure or what. She's always in the branches way more than she's on the ground. I don't know if that's typical. It's our first carpet. So I'm still picking the brains of other Morelia guys and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can see she's in just hunting position. She's been in the whole time.
Oh yeah, she's ready. We actually just fed her 2 or 3 days ago, but she eats like a powerhouse. She's a champ. She's been great for us so far. We actually rescued her from a kid who bought her at a Repticon, told us she was male, And then he's like, I'm moving in with my mom. She's terrified of snakes. I can't keep her. So we ended up taking him from her and probed her. We've probed her 3 times. She's probed female every time. I know that sometimes they can kind of tighten up and stuff like that. So
I blame the seller.
But yeah, she's been great. She's only tagged us, I think, once or twice.
She looks like she would right now. If you,
Sure. I mean, it was my fault the time she got me. I had, it was feeding day. I didn't warm the rat up enough, so she smelled the rat, saw the heat from my hand, and that was it. It was game over for my fingers at that point. So.
Yeah, that happens, especially with the jungles, and once you get into that territory, I mean, they like to eat, and they like to eat things that are warm, and they make that decision very quickly, and they may not,
without it. I mean, by the time I opened the glass, it was, I had like 20 holes and 2 fingers.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was rough. The time that she tagged Amanda, I think Amanda had just reached in for a second to grab the thermometer, the temperature probe or something like that, and just within a second got it. So
you got to learn sometime. I mean, can't be sticking hands up in anywhere.
Oh yeah, no. So from now on, she gets hooked. Anytime we open the glass, we'll hook train her, touch her with the hook. Sometimes she'll ride it and want to come out on the hook, but other times at least she knows that it's the hook, it's not food, and she'll come out no problem after that. But
that is the worst thing about the jungles is that you will try to just grab the water bowl and you'll put the hook and you'll move their head over, and then they'll start riding up the hook, and then you're like, fuck, well, now my hand's closer than before to the thing's head.
Oh, for sure. And I think she's probably the most active and alert snake that we have. You walk by and she sees a reflection, she moves. She's just very attentive to what's going on. But yeah, she's awesome so far.
And she is like a very attractive jungle for an animal that someone picked up at a reptile show, quote, and it's like swished hands. You think you're going to get like some nasty mutt jungle.
Right.
But I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, there's obviously no saying that it's pure, but it's very good looking.
Gorgeous, very, very velvety black, super bright yellows. It's hard to see because of the lighting in the enclosure now. I'm not trying to have her strike the glass or anything, but just so you can kind of see some of the colors on there. The head pattern, super, super great. We definitely lucked out. We ended up getting her for free from this kid with the enclosure, a couple sticks, water bowl, everything like that. So
because he just had to get rid of her.
He had to get rid of her, and he's like, "Look, I don't want a price. I just want her to go to a good home." I was like, "If you give this snake to anybody else, I'll find you and I'll hurt you. Like, I want this." So we ended up driving almost 3.5 hours to meet this kid to get this snake for free. Super worth it though. So she'll be a future breeder for us, hopefully this upcoming season.
For sure. And the fact that it's because it seems like a kind of shot in the dark, whether they decide to be arboreal or not. And the fact that you have one in a large enclosure that is going to actually display on that branch like it is now. Like if people obviously people on the download can't see, but it is just laid across the branch like perfectly and just head in an S, like looking at the ground, waiting for something to come by in like perfect hunting position.
Yeah, it's super awesome. Every once in a while, we'll come in the room and she'll be caudal luring with her tail, which is super, super cool to see.
You got a Carpondra, dude.
Right?
Right? I think you may have to consider that because I don't know if I've heard that happening with carpet pythons. I may be stupid, but
yeah. Oh, she doesn't do it as much as the the GTPs or the Carpondras that I've seen. It's just a little bit of a wiggle, but it's enough to definitely something that I would consider luring. Yeah, she's cool.
That's awesome.
So wait, Brandon just said caudal luring. Is that what y'all are
So caudal luring is when they pretty much wiggle their tail, kind of like a worm, and try to get a bird to come down.
Okay.
And it's basically their form of hunting. And it's mostly done.
Green trees, right?
Yeah, it's mostly done by green tree pythons. I'm sure it happens in other Morelia and stuff like that, but yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. I think young copperheads do it as well with their little yellow tail. They lure a little bit. So
absolutely.
It's pretty cool to see. So
yeah, that's kind of one of those things that I don't know if you get a video of it caught alluring, even the green tree guys, when you catch it like at the right time of night, you'll get, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing. Even if you have like 100 green trees, because I've probably seen mine do it like once or twice, it's
Right.
gotta be, you don't disturb it and it thinks that no one's, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of like, you catch it in the act of doing something really cool.
But yeah, I mean, she'll do stuff like that. So she'll do stuff that's really cool where she'll lure and she's always in the hunting position. She's also kind of a retard where she'll strike at the glass for no reason. So, I mean, she both sides of the spectrum. I don't know if it's that she sees her reflection or whatever it is, but every once in a while I'll walk into the room and you just hear bam, and she's hitting the glass. So both sides there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the fun with animals like that. And
no, that's not fun. No,
but I
no
think
one wants it to strike at the glass. What are you talking
well,
about?
I had this conversation today with someone is where she was very scared of being bit, but it's like you don't have snakes then. Snakes are not something that you can have if you are afraid of being bit. I don't like being bit. Part of the
fun.
No, but it's part of its natural instincts. I mean, like him hunting, him seeing Dallas's shadow and striking at the glass, that's just part of their instinctual.
That's totally two different words, babe. Saying part of their natural instincts and part of the fun, very different things.
Fun for us if we're watching.
That's not.
I kind of agree. I think it's part of the fun. It's just like, it's the adrenaline rush of skydiving. It's part of the fun of what happens if you have to use your secondary chute. If you're racing, what happens if your tire blows or whatever the case is. It's part of the fun knowing that anytime I reach in, she could tag me. So it kind of makes me more attentive and more aware of her behaviors and her mannerisms and learning that animal. So.
Yeah, you have to be more attuned to what the snake's doing or else there's consequences to it. I mean, that's why, honestly, that's probably why we don't breed rabbits and we breed snakes or keep snakes, like, I mean, there's just, it's a wild animal still. No matter what you do, it's not going to be,
I'm totally okay with having an animal that I know 100% is never going to bite me. I'd still have fun with it.
All right.
It's something I tell my daughters as well, because my girls are 6 and 9, and they always ask whenever we go out hiking and herping and stuff like that. We'll find a lot of gray rat snakes around here, a lot of garters, black racers, stuff like that. And they'll try to have me pick them up like I do our personal collection. And they say, oh, will they bite? Even the ones in our collection will bite. Everything's a wild animal, technically, even though it's captive. So everything has that instinct to bite. You just got to know the mannerisms and what to expect and kind of learn the different behaviors of it.
So you take your kids herping. How is that? That's
a lot of fun. They've been getting into it a lot more lately. They were a little skeptical at first, but then the first time we went out with them, we found like a 4 or 5 foot gray rat snake who was super, super docile for being a wild snake. Let us hook and tail her, picked her up, no biting, no striking, got some pictures. Since then, they've helped me find ringnecks, a couple of garters. They love finding frogs, lizards, stuff like that. They were super excited about, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I hatched out a clutch of 9 common 5-line skinks, little blue-tailed skinks. So they love that. That was super, super cool. I ended up releasing those out as a release effort. So yeah, they definitely love going out with us and trying to look for anything we can find.
So they have no fear of anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that's nature or nurture?
I definitely think it's the nurturing side of it. I saw somebody had a show or a podcast or something that said you're only born with 2 fears. I don't remember what those 2 were, but you're not born afraid of snakes. It's something that you're taught. Maybe your grandfather was afraid of snakes and he got chased by a cottonmouth. He passed that on to your dad or whatever the case is, or maybe you saw a cartoon where there was a snake that was bad, stuff like that. And I don't think anybody's born being afraid of snakes. It's definitely something that's taught. So we try to teach them that snakes aren't bad at all. They're not aggressive. They're not going to chase you for sure. It's definitely something to respect any snakes that you find. You can get bit. But first and foremost, I mean, we believe in teaching the venomous species in your area first, being able to properly and accurately identify those, and then just about anything else isn't going to kill you. So we kind of just go from there. They actually just helped us about 2 weeks ago dissect an eastern diamondback rattlesnake that we found DOR. So we got to dissect that, check out all the cool stuff inside, kept the fangs. I ended up tanning the hide, doing some taxidermy. We got all the bones from it. So they were super stoked about that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, we saw that. What's the process like? Whether it is, I mean, obviously there's multiple things that you did there, but obviously separating the meat from the bones and just processing the whole animal like you guys did.
So as far as the process, it was super easy. As far as getting the hide, it was just a matter of we cut the snake up the middle. Before we did that, let me start back over. We double checked. It actually still had fangs. The head was the only part that was hit when Amanda found it DOR. So I told the girls stay away from the head. There's still fangs. There's still venom in there. As soon as she found him on the road, she brought him home. We threw him in the freezer, so he was still preserved for the most part. But we basically milked him, got all the venom that we could out of the glands, and then I pulled the fangs out, so it was rendered safe for the most part. From there, cut the snake up the middle.
Did you do this in your kitchen?
We definitely did on the dining room table. We laid plastic. We all wore gloves. Everything was super sanitary and sterile and safe. Basically we just cut the snake down the middle. Peeled the skin off. At that point, we were left with the muscles and bone skeletal structure. As far as the skin for tanning, you scrape all the flesh off. And then it's super, super simple. You get a mixture of 50% pure glycerin, which you could find at like CVS, Walgreens, whatever grocery store you've got, and 50% isopropyl alcohol, at least 91%. You mix those two in a jar. You roll the skin up real loose and stick it in there for about 3 days. Shake it gently once a day. At the end of that 3 or 4 days, you pull it out, pat it dry. You can scrape off any extra flesh at that point, and then hang dry it for 24 hours, and it's good to go. We actually have. Let me see if I have it in the room over here. Yeah. So I mean, within a matter of 3. I don't know if you can see it because of the lighting there, but it's super, super beautiful. Eastern diamondback. We didn't have to. It wasn't killed, unethically or anything like that. So that process was really separating the bones from the muscles. It's a process called maceration. You basically put the remnants or the carcass in a bucket of water that's sealed. Bucket of water at a constant 95 degrees for anywhere between a week, and depending on these stuff like deer and stuff like that would take longer. Keep it in there. Got to definitely have a respirator when you go to open that bucket. It's rough, and once you do that, let it soak for a while. You pour everything out. The natural bacteria eats away all the muscles. You're left with the bones. So you kind of wash them up, put them in a jar with a little bit of Dawn dish soap, let them soak in that for a day. Take them out of that, rinse them off, and then let them soak in some hydrogen peroxide for a couple hours. It whitens them right up, and then you're left with the world's hardest puzzle. So.
Who knew it was such a fucking process?
Oh no, it's super easy. The whole thing between when we made the first incision on the rattlesnake to having a jar full of bones and a hide was a week.
That sounds like a long ass time. What are you talking?
It was definitely long because we were being impatient, but it's super, super cool. Since then, we've gotten a little bit more into like the taxidermy and the oddities kind of side of things. So anytime we see roadkill, we're like, oh man, I wonder if we could salvage that, get the bones, and turn it into something beautiful again. So it's definitely interesting to be driving down the road, squirrel and raccoon and this and that. I actually have half a raccoon skeleton in a bucket right now, and a deer jaw out there as well. getting the rest of the flesh off. So
most other Alabamans would just think dinner. Yeah.
Is it really Alabamans? Is that what they're called? That
Yeah.
sounds very
I'm
weird.
not sure. I haven't learned that one yet.
Alabamans.
That sounds off.
But
It's not Alabamians? I don't know.
Albanians.
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 I'm not sure about that one. I don't really know.
All right. I lived in Alabama for 2 years. I was an
Oh,
Alabaman.
so long.
So long.
It's definitely a lot lighter and slower than Florida for sure. A lot less traffic.
That's probably for sure. Yeah. Now, what do you do, or what are your plans with the bones?
So at this point, we have a set of fangs. We actually, I was really surprised I didn't know it was possible, but we have about 6 fangs from one snake, which kind of blew my mind. I thought they only had maybe 2 or 3 at a time. When we were doing the dissection, she had 2 on one side, 1 on the other. So we got those 3, and then there was actually 3 more when we macerated. And then when I finally cleaned up everything, dried it all off, and laid everything out, it ended up being, I stopped counting at about 187 bones. And there was still a whole nother page worth. At this point, Amanda's going to try to articulate the skeleton. She's got some craft wire and some glue and stuff like that. So we're going to try to put it back together, which is fucking daunting.
That's like a 10,000 piece puzzle.
Oh yeah, it's and the crazy thing is, you got to think that the vertebrae goes from small to big to small again. So you can't just start at the biggest vertebrae and go down. You wouldn't have a proper skeleton. A lot of the skull was damaged because that was the part that was run over. So we don't have a lot of the actual skull pieces, but we have a full constructed jaw. So we've got the upper and lower with teeth and the fang. And then, like I said, there's like 200 ribs and vertebrae and sort. If we don't get it back together, she might turn it into some jewelry or something like that. Some kind of oddities, bone jewelry or art, something like that. And then I'm going to be taking a couple pieces of the bones with me. This Thursday, I'm going to the kids' school to do an educational show for their STEM program. So I'm going to teach the kids about snakes and show them this is how small snake bones are and stuff like that. So
that'll
be pretty cool.
I mean, there's so much herpetofauna in, obviously, when you guys were in Florida, that's obvious, but also you're in southern Alabama, correct?
Yeah, so we're about, I say, 45 minutes north of the Florida border and the Panhandle, up here in Ozark, Alabama. As far as the herpetofauna, it's been great so far. We can just about find a rat snake or a ringneck almost anytime we go out, regardless if it's 70 degrees and 90. I haven't personally seen any, but I've heard of a couple people in my area finding a lot of copperheads, a lot of cottonmouths, quite a few timbers. So there's definitely a lot of stuff around, a lot of geckos, stuff like that. So it's definitely pretty cool.
And how do you usually find these animals? Is it road cruising, or are you going to designated spots, flipping boards, or anything like that?
Surprisingly, I've had 0 luck ever road cruising. The only 3 snakes I've ever found road cruising was a DOR Eastern coach whip, the DOR Eastern Diamondback Rattlesnake, and a DOR. We're really good at finding the dead ones on the road somehow. But honestly, we've got a couple parts too, and we'll walk the trail, find pretty cool walking through logs, a couple of boards and pieces of trash that are out there. We'll flip over, have a lot of luck that way. And then we live probably about 10 minutes away from the base. So every once in a while, I'll go to the park over there, walk over there and find some pretty cool Eastern box turtles, painted, sliders.
There's definitely a lot of snakes in that area. Now, that's kind of southern Alabama is kind of where you get that weird overlap where there may not be as many corn snakes or anything like that. But have you had luck I know you said did you say you found one dead on the road as far as corn snakes go?
Yeah, so I found one dead on the road. Beautiful, normal, super, great oranges, really nice black borders. Maybe only 14 inches long, super small. I haven't seen a corn snake since then. Mostly it's rat snakes and black racers where we are. I'm not saying they're not out there. I just haven't been able to find them yet.
Yeah.
It's also been, averaging 98 degrees, feeling like 104. So they're probably all in the ground at this point.
What is the reptile scene like as far as hobbyists or shows in Alabama?
Not much where we are. There's one other guy that I know that lives local that we had come house sit for us when we went to Texas to kind of keep an eye on the snakes and stuff like that. He's got a collection of about 200. I think the next closest person that we know that has any kind of notable collection is in Florida, about an hour south of us, runs a pet shop named Sweeney's Pets. Super great prices on all of his stuff, and he has a pretty awesome collection as well. And then as far as shows, I think the closest Repticon is about an hour and a half away, up in Columbus, Georgia. And then of course Birmingham and Huntsville both have some shows as well every once in a while, or Pensacola, but those are all 2+ hours away. So that was something that Amanda and I were looking into is we're going to try to start orchestrating and putting together a show local here in the southern Alabama side of things.
Is Dothan a pretty big city-ish?
Yeah, Dothan is
Sorry.
it's all good. It's relatively large. I'm not sure of the population or anything, but to get from one side of Dothan to the other, it probably takes us 35-40 minutes.
So significant.
It's not as big as Dallas or Houston or probably Philly or anything like that for sure, but it's a respectable size. It's got quite a few decent parks. There's a really beautiful large botanical garden in the area. So it's definitely a nice area. It's nice
So
and
is
quiet.
that where you'd be looking to possibly start a show, or?
Oh yeah, most likely it would be Dothan. We live about 35 minutes north of Dothan in a small town called Ozark. It's like 1 or 2 stoplights in the area. Dothan's the next biggest city. Either Dothan or Enterprise would be another close large city. And we're still in the very early stages of planning that. Just something to kind of rent a space, have people rent a table, stuff like that. But we have no idea where to start and how to move forward with that. So I'll be reaching out to some people and picking their brains as well. So
yeah, that's such a. I mean, there are, even though there are so many reptile shows out there now, there's still so many gaps, and there's so many gaps for good reptile shows because there's a plethora of mediocre ones or bad ones, or I mean, for someone who's willing to do the right thing and find the right people, and like it may be the point to where you need to reach out to people to buy tables instead of you need to sell people to buy tables instead of a bunch of people coming to you and do some quality control and stuff like that. I mean, that's something that I wish if I had like $20,000 sitting around to invest in, a reptile show in the Northeast or something, I would completely do.
Well, that's something I was joking about too, is every single reptile show you go to in the last 2 or 3 years is just absolutely, without a doubt, overrun by ball pythons. Every single table you find has 20 or 30 ball pythons. So I was joking around that when we start a show, I'm going to allow 1 ball python vendor. Everybody else has to bring something different. I'm sorry. That's just how it's got to be.
And I don't know if you've seen, I mean, it seems like the hobby is just because of things like demand and stuff like that. And it seems like it's going towards a more plentiful as far as even when I first started paying attention to the hobby as a whole, maybe like 5 years ago or so. I mean, it really changed in comparison as far as how many people keep different things now.
Oh, 100%. When we got into it about 3 years ago, it was definitely, like I said, overrun by ball pythons. At least I know from our personal experience within the last 4 to 6 months, we've been seeing a lot more colubrid groups popping up on Facebook, colubrid classifieds, and all sorts of stuff like that. I've been seeing a lot of people working with more exotic colubrids, bamboo rat snakes and mandarins, cave dwelling rat snakes, all sorts of cool stuff like that. So I'm definitely seeing some more of the colubrid side expanding, for sure. And then definitely some more turtles in the game now, and then more exotic species of lizard. So it's definitely cool to see something that's not super cliche and another ball python. I hate to throw out that reference, but that's just what it's been in my experience, at least, and ours.
Yeah. And it used to be a thing like, all it was ball pythons, leopard geckos, and crested geckos. But now I barely even see leopard geckos and crested geckos. It seems like for a second there, it was all ball pythons. So I'm glad. I mean, I like ball pythons are cool. They obviously have their place, but it's nice to see a variety of animals. And obviously, I don't know what it is about the hobby now that's making people switch, but I mean, there's definitely demand going other places, whether it's like there's no more money, like high dollar animals or whatever. But I don't want to talk shit about the ball python market or anything.
Well, it's like I said, I mean, you show up to a show and you've got your choice of buying 20 or 30 different banana ball pythons or 100 different inchy ball pythons. It's just a matter of which vendor you want to go through at that point. Whereas when we went to Texas and we saw this trio of Slowinskii, we immediately jumped on it. We're like, it's different. It's something that's pretty rare in captivity. They only happen between far east Texas and far west Louisiana, a little bit of Arkansas. And as far as we know, there's maybe 1 or 2 other people that have them in captivity right now. So we're definitely looking forward to working with them and then getting them to breed in a couple of years.
I know Joe's really excited for you to be working with them.
So obviously, if anyone listens to the podcast, that's pretty much a species of snake that has been on my radar. But for whatever reason, I think it's just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I haven't got one. I should have by now. Have you seen any difference? I mean, they're so similar to a corn snake. Is there really any difference between a little bit of look as far as the behavior of them?
As far as the behavior, nothing that either myself or Amanda have noticed. The 2 males that we have are a little bit picky as far as eating. For the first couple of weeks that we had them, they both had to be deli cupped, put in a cup, put the pinky in, make it dark, basically give them room service and walk away. I finally got them trained a little bit. I've been tease feeding them, kind of working with them a little bit. So they're finally striking at pinkies right now. The female, on the other hand, is a ferocious eater. She just destroys anything, pinkies that you put into there. But as far as other behavior, I mean, they hang out, they explore, they're all inquisitive. And then the looks, the female we have is a visual silverleaf. And then we have a black Kisatchie, which is, I guess, an Aneri B, which is basically an axanthic. But I know corn snakes and rat snakes don't have the axanthic gene, I believe. So he looks super, super cool. And then we've got the other male who's a who's a normal Kisatchie, het for silverleaf, and the black Kisatchie. Total trio when we pair them up in a few years.
Now, do you have any locality information on those? I know the morphs usually don't hold as much locality information as far as whether it's Texas or Louisiana or anything like that.
I actually think the guy that we got them from at the show said that the gentleman he purchased them from got them from Arkansas. So I believe it's one of the only pairs or trios from the Arkansas locality. Like I said, it's just very, very South Arkansas. That's what we were told. We don't have any paperwork regarding that. We reached out to not the guy that we got them from, but the gentleman he got them from. He bought them thinking he was going to do something with them. Ended up going a different route with his product. So we got this trio at a hell of a steal. And we ended up reaching out to the original owner saying, hey, we just purchased these. We wanted a little bit more info. They got from said that you found them in Arkansas. Just want to face that if we can continue that project.
Oh no, you're breaking up.
We haven't heard back from him. Definitely more local. Yeah, bad. Not a lot of service in the house. So
No, you're good. We just hit a weird patch there. But if people don't know, the Slowinski are like the border of Texas and Louisiana, and there's like a random patch in Arkansas. And it is, I mean, it was once thought to be Emery to corn snake, which seems like where those obviously cross over, right? That's where they integrate technically, as well as Arkansas. But genetically, I believe it's been proven through DNA that they are on the full species level.
yeah, so it's a full species of its own. Believe that had integrated from a Great Plains rat and a corn snake, but then they recently got their own full species level. They were found by a guy named Joseph Slowinski, who unfortunately passed away many years ago. I guess he had misidentified a crate, took a bite from that. He's got an interesting story if you ever get a chance to read about his works and his life.
Story. It's so messed up. It's so depressing. He tells it all the time, and it's so sad.
He got bit on September 11th.
Sued. So. If I were his family, I would have sued his assistant.
Well, he was okay. So the guy in Myanmar / Burma, whatever you like to call it, his assistant who was a native thought it was a Litocon. What is it? Syncticon something. But it was a many-banded crate.
And so Slowinski was like, "Oh, it's this non-venomous, non-terrible." However your word you just said. No, turns out it's a crate. And it was 9/11. So obviously every embassy's, services and
the United States was completely shut down
directed towards the United States. And so no one's gonna help this little single man who
was also allergic to antivenom. Also, because he had been bitten by a Veritas or a prairie rattlesnake when he was a young kid, and he got antivenom, which, by the way, would probably be a pretty different antivenom because it's two different kind of venoms. But he would refuse antivenom because
it was just
he was allergic. He had allergic. Yeah,
he's like, I'll just write it out. I'll take my chances.
It was all.
And he just made a journal of him dying, and that's
it's rough. I was reading about it the other day, just doing a little bit more research about them to try to see. Again, to help them thrive, and reading his story was eye-opening. It was crazy.
James Lewis isn't going to let y'all get away with calling him Slowinskis.
No, they're Slowinskis because that's correct.
And he's saying even when you say Kisatchie, you're pronouncing it wrong.
Yeah, no, that's why I won't even touch it.
You don't
anymore.
even want to say Kisatchie. You even say Kisatchie. It's Kisatchie.
It's a national forest on the border of Texas and Louisiana. So that's where it comes from, because I think someone once collected them there. So they're like, this is what we call them. But the thing is, the scientific name, why don't we just go with Slowinski's corn snake?
Also, the guy died so terribly. Let's give him some credit.
Yeah, the dude bled out of his eyes for this shit. All right, motherfuckers.
I wanted to comment on your Project Black Python shirt. Have you had a chance to check out his new book yet?
No, I've heard it's only available. He released it in like Denmark for the first time, because I saw Casper had a copy of it, but Ari's not releasing the Bowen's Python book until I guess the next month, until it comes overseas somehow. I don't know how.
Well,
I don't know how Denmark got it
first. How
did
they get it first?
I don't know. We'd have to ask
he's
him.
working with Russ. I guess they said the shipment will be over here by the end of the month, and he'll sign the copy for you and everything, which is super, super cool. I was thinking about picking up a copy of that. That'll definitely be an interesting read. We were chatting with him at IHS in Texas, and just hearing some of the stories of him being through the woods with these people who are 4'2" and super, super tiny is just really, really cool. So should be
because we didn't talk about that at all. Obviously, I don't know how you got to IHS, but somehow you ended up in Dallas, and we hung out and herped for a second there. We went to like a random dinner, then we went over to Tony's house and all that stuff. So tell us a little bit of your journey from Alabama to Texas to IHS.
So the drive, definitely boring, long, flat, straight. That sucked. I had actually worked the night before. I worked third shift, so I got out at like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Came straight home. We packed up the car. She drove first, and we just hit the road. We had a sleeping bag in the back of the truck, and ended up just sleeping, driving in shifts. Really, we came to Dallas to hang out with you. And Melissa was obviously busy, and one of Amanda's friends.
You must have been babysitting
That's the
for.
only thing I'm ever out doing is babysitting.
Or she was at the beach.
Yeah, some kind of teacher vacation or something like that.
A babysitting vacation. I was at the beach, but I was babysitting at the beach.
But what about the other teacher vacation you took?
Oh, that was the beach trip. I don't know.
It was one of the
Okay,
beach times.
one of the beach trips. Sorry.
So so we came over there kind of just to meet up with you and kind of finally hang out because we had talked online for a little while. Super cool area. Definitely enjoyed herping. That pet shop that we went to was pretty cool. And then we went down to Houston to go to the IHS, which turned out pretty awesome. Super cool crowd, lots of cool people that we met. The auction was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do any herping in Houston like we had wanted to, but we ended up with the Slowinski trio. And
yeah, how the hell do you go to IHS and end up with that?
Because the IHS had the, I guess it was some kind of, I don't remember the name of it, but some reptile expo. The last day of IHS plus an extra day. So we ended up getting into the expo because of purchasing the tickets to IHS. And again, a ton of ball pythons. There was a few different things. Some people had like some hedgehogs and stuff like that. And just walking around, we saw these 3 Slowinski sitting in the tank. And the guy had a price sticker on for like $200 or something like that. So we looked at him and we're like, we've never heard of him before, never seen this species, have no idea what it is. So we walked around, kind of Googled it on our phones, and I saw that I want to say it was Don Soderberg's website, South Mountain Reptiles. It might have been somebody else, but somebody was selling a female Slowinski for like $700 or something like that. So we're like, well, if we can get the trio for 2, regardless of what they are, we'll take them. We'll do something with them. So we ended up grabbing those. We cut the show a little bit short since we had bought live animals. Took them back to the hotel, grabbed a nap, and hit the road home. And again, a long, boring, straight drive home. But it was definitely a fun experience. It's the first time I had ever been to Texas or further, west in the Panhandle. So that was pretty fun.
So you basically stole Slowinski. You know that, right?
Well, I mean, but yeah, we got a hell of a deal.
$200 is free for an animal that should be at least, if there's no morphs involved, at least $350 each or so.
Oh no, there's definitely morphs. Let me see if I can get this guy out. I'll show you the black Kisatchie here. He's super, super beautiful. Kisatchie, sorry. If he'll come out here.
Slowinski.
But he is, let's see there, super, super black and gray.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Just the natural animal should be $250 or $300, and you got morphs for $300 a trio.
Yeah. So we got the black. We've got a normal het for black, and then we've got the female visual, who's super, super gorgeous. She's just got some really silver tones to her. Very iridescent. As soon as we saw that price and we did a little bit of research, immediately jumped on it. And that was that. So we're looking forward to. Currently, the males are on 2 pinks each right now. Hopefully, they'll move up to fuzzy soon.
And little did you know, that was my dream. And then it was crushed.
I'll have babies in about 3 years for you. So.
There you go. So, how was IHS as a whole? Did you guys go to all the talks and everything?
Yeah, so we went to the majority of the talks, probably about 80% of them. There was a couple of them that we really just didn't have any interest in. Definitely really interesting to hear people from all over talk about their expeditions and adventures and stuff like that with the that they were studying. So that was a lot of fun. Purchasing tickets to the IHS, we got into the Houston Zoo, which was a lot of fun. That was the first time that I've ever seen live. It has 4 or 5 of them at least. They got a really, really nice collection. We got the behind the scenes tour there. So we got to go back and see some of their stuff. They had the banquet dinner, open bar, which was super, super cool.
Wow, I didn't know
And
that
that
was
was an open
Wow.
like, but ticket price is worth it for an open bar. And then the reptile, not the reptile, the auction for IHS was a lot of fun. Just imagine any kind of reptile auction there is. I imagine Tinley is probably a lot crazier. But they're auctioning off a piece of art that starts at $200 or $300, and next thing you know, it's at $7,000. There's people screaming and hollering and having a good time. So that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the hotel that the IHS was at was under construction, but there's no way they could have known that they were going to do construction the week of. But other than that, it was a great time.
That's pretty awesome. So I guess the question,
Belize. So
yeah, I heard that.
Big
Well,
difference from Houston.
I was gonna ask, are you going to Tinley, but are you going to Belize too, or what?
So we're probably not doing anything international for a while. We're definitely going to be hitting Carpet Fest 2K19, Southeast Carpet Fest. If you guys want to check that out, it'll be down in Florida. It'll be super great. It's at Cody and Pia's house, I believe. I'm not really sure if that's confirmed yet or not.
So they're not doing
Dave Palumbo's again.
Not Dave Palumbo again. Okay.
No, it won't be at Palumbo's again, which was great. We had a great time when we were down there. Super beautiful house, great family. Guy's super friendly. He has a beautiful collection. But I think that was a little bit further south than most people wanted to go. So it'll be up near Gainesville-ish, kind of central northern Florida. So we're definitely going to that. We might try to make it to Tinley, which I believe is in October, correct?
Yeah.
Coming up real soon.
Yeah, so we might try to go to that. And then we're definitely going to be planning to go to the Carpet Fest up there with you guys and Eric and Owen and everybody.
Oh,
Yay!
So we definitely want to try to hit the OG Carpet Fest. It's pretty much our goal to have a shirt from every Carpet Fest in that calendar year.
Hell yeah.
It'll be our first one next year.
Yeah, it'll be
like
our
crazy,
first OG Carpet Fest, and we don't have to go anywhere for a while. Well, probably about the same as we went to Tony's place or Bill's place.
About 45 minutes.
But I mean, it will be obviously awesome to be there at the original one, and we haven't been there
I feel
yet.
like we got to know some more people. I don't know. I feel like all we know is Eric and Owen.
Yeah,
lately,
you show up with some beer and talk snakes, and you'll be all right.
Like lately, we've been too busy to branch out and go to all the shows, but now we're kind of settling down and we're trying to figure out shows to go to and stuff like that. So maybe that will change.
Yeah, for sure. How's the reptile scene up that way? You got a lot of shows and shops and whatnot, or?
Well, it's really hard going. I didn't realize how spoiled we were in Dallas. Like, I knew there was a lot, but just that's all I knew. Him and I started dating in Dallas, so that I thought it was all kind of like that. I knew we had NARBC, which is one of the biggest, and I knew that wasn't something that was everywhere, but I assumed everyone had shows like that.
Well, we can't cry because there's White Plains, there's Hamburg, there is obviously a bunch of local shows.
But
there's the Maryland shows.
What are you talking? I feel like there's not.
There's a show this weekend in Oaks, which is like a half hour away from here. There is Hamburg, which is like 40 minutes away from here.
I guess
there's White Plains, which is like
it's
2 hours away from here.
As Dallas.
Just because we haven't been going. Just trust me, there is. But also it's that like we always knew a bunch of people who were like, hey, you going to this one, you going to that one. So it like felt like we were always, and there are in Dallas, man, there's always a reptile show in the area or immediate area.
Okay, that's not too bad. How you guys liking Philly so far?
It's all right. No, it's been great. Other than obviously our first debacle, which if people want to hear more
first
about
debacle,
that,
we've had debacle after
we've had
debacle
after debacle. but all the animals are fine.
That's good.
Well, we only lost
Except for
one
one.
during the
We only
move.
lost
When it's
one.
like physically lost, not like lost from sickness. No one got sick, which I heard is like impossible to do, but I've done it like 4 times moving, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Very-
If I truly believed, never mind. Let me not get into that.
Oh no.
I don't know. We like Philly.
Is there a
It's
curse on us?
just
Is that what
been
you were
feeling
getting at?
like there's a curse on us, and that I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. You just got to kind of power through and keep your chin up and stay positive about it. So
We're not homeless. That's really a cool thing.
we're winning there. That works.
Just have a black
works.
eye and Lyme's disease.
Yeah,
It's the black guy. Is that just the fucking Philly? You get in a bar fight type of thing, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally his fault. But
Yeah. But she got Lyme's disease too. So
yeah,
hey,
that's fun. Paying
Right.
2 rents on 2 houses, Lyme's disease, a black eye, my car.
yeah, your car exploded upon arrival of getting here.
It's like up to like 10 things of all things. But yes, the animals are all great, and we are hopefully maybe vending a show this weekend, our first show. I don't know.
No, we pretty
Did
much
it not work out?
I didn't think there would be tables sold out, but it seems like everywhere's sold out, and it seems like you gotta blow a troll to get into any shows
Oh,
around here.
troll.
So
Oh my God. Well, it is the week of, so
it
we
is the
are
week
a little
of, so that's
late.
fair.
But I feel like at Lone Star in Dallas, there's like always a way to get in. But here, there's a show in Philly this weekend and a show in Pittsburgh, which I think is dumb, by the way. You shouldn't have them on the same weekend.
But
You should
Pittsburgh's
stack.
4.5 hours away, and they're both local shows, so no one
You
really
should
travels
stack
for
it.
either.
No
one,
one's
but-
trying to do both, is what you're saying.
Nah.
Okay. Well,
No, I
the
wouldn't
Philly.
think anybody's trying to make both.
Well, that's what. But if they were staggered, someone with a big collection would try to hit both, right?
Maybe.
That's like in Dallas, people hit Conroe and Houston
Yeah.
and Dallas, and
Yeah,
those
they're
are
all
all about
timed.
3 hours away, and they're all spaced out.
Yeah, but Texas is a much larger state. Here you can hit we can hit the Maryland shows, we can hit
It's
New
not-
York
okay.
shows and all that stuff. So
Well, we're going to a snake show somehow this weekend.
we're at least going. We're
Yeah,
trying to
we're gonna
vend,
go
but-
to the Philly one if we can't vend to Pittsburgh. But we're hoping maybe we can get into vend Pittsburgh, which will be our first time vending, which will be very exciting.
It's
I
crazy.
don't
pretty
think
cool.
he should vend with a black eye, but
Oh no, you just use that to sell snakes. It's,
I mean,
find a
have
way
you
to turn it
seen?
to your advantage.
Yeah, have you seen people who sell snakes? All right. I think we're all right. I mean, there's not many standards involved in our industry.
For sure. So, I do hate to cut it short, but I've got to get going and get the kids in bed. I just want to say I really appreciate you having me on. Sorry, Amanda couldn't make it tonight. She was working a little bit later. So
Of course, I appreciate you coming out. And then also, we'll have to have you on with Amanda at some point. Once you guys get deeper into the whether she resents you for having so many snakes or vice versa, kind of at the point where Melissa is now. Where
oh, no, we actually we're both on the same page right now where we both want more. I mean, there's no end number in mind, but it's definitely somewhere in the triple digits at some point. So it's hopefully one day one of us can work full time with the animals, and then the other one will have the other full time, quote unquote, normal job. Don't know when that'll be, but sometime in the future we'll have more. So
that's the dream. Have someone keep their health benefits, and then have the other one work
there
with
you
snakes.
go. Oh yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you taking out the time, and we'll talk for a little bit about our perilous life, I guess. And you got real negative there, but
if they want, if
but
people want to reach out to you.
oh yeah, if people want to reach out to you, Dallas, where can they reach you?
Yeah, so if people want to reach out on Instagram, I am at the average herper. Facebook at Dallas Rua. You can find our Facebook business page at Rua Colubrids, but there's really nothing on there yet. We haven't really set any of that up. We should have that up and running pretty soon with some pictures, prices. Once we get these little guys fed a couple meals and a few sheds, they'll be going up for sale pretty soon. if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to me personally, my email is dallasrua@gmail.com. If you want to reach out, I'm more than willing to take questions or anything like that as well. So.
Oh yeah, hit them up, people.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks, man.
bye.
You guys have a
Thanks
good one.
Thanks for coming on.
For sure.
So because I mean, people are talking about going on a vacation. Our vacation, I think, is going to be Tinley. At least to me, that sounds like a great vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a call. So does anyone want to share a room with us? Anyone got a floor in Tinley for us to sleep on? That would be sick.
Because I think we can swing hotel or plane. I don't think we can.
Rude, I don't want to swing both. We can. Well, no, I'm driving no matter what.
Babe, that sounds like it's 11 hours. Why would we drive that?
Duh, because it's Tinley and you drive.
What? Why? if we're going with a big group of people, but if it's just us, that makes no sense to drive it. Why?
Because it would take us, 12 hours really isn't that bad. I want to get there. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get there by Friday. But the thing is, you got to go to the airport. You got to get an Uber or whatever to the venue. Obviously, I guess we're only going to show up for Saturday, aren't we? Because that's like lame.
Saturday
if you're going to do Tinley.
On Friday and Saturday?
If you got to do Tinley, it's really worth it to be a vendor and just to be there for Friday.
Why?
Or I guess you could do VIP.
No, it's on Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, it is, but Friday they start setting up, and that's when all the shit goes down.
We can't afford VIP.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. If anyone's wondering how to actually do it, either vend it or get VIPs, because Friday, all the good animals are already gone by the end of Friday.
What?
That's
so
not
kind of like the ham show in Germany, where like shit goes down in the parking lot. Basically, everything goes down.
Shit happens. That Friday is when the vendors pick each other's stuff, and all the vendors at Tinley are the best of the best, pretty much.
Also, though, if we're going to Tinley, we're not buying anything.
Also, yeah,
we're not. So I don't know why do we need
that our best of the best
anything.
Is like nothing. Like we don't like the high end shit that's going to be gone on Friday.
We are not buying anything. We are putting all in our money to go to have fun. We are not buying anything at this show.
Well, we need to I
will hide your money. You're not buying anything.
No, it's not that we're buying anything. We're just gonna.
So then why do we need the
We're
VIP?
Gonna go to the bar on Saturday and Sunday. There's a bar connection. I don't know if you've never been to Tinley.
But so then why do we need the VIP if we're not buying anything?
Okay, let me talk. Well, I know, but you get to talk to everyone. It's so crowded and intense that it's hard to get around. It's hard to talk to everyone like you want to if you're not there beforehand. But if you're in the know, what you want to do is you go to the show either on Saturday or probably Saturday or Friday night. You go to the bar that's connected to the venue. So there's a convention center that also is a hotel that also, of course, has a hotel bar. But you're not doing it right if you're not staying for the hotel bar on Friday night and Saturday night. Because that's really where you all talk to each other like real humans. You don't have the facade of having to sell stuff and it's really like the who's who of reptile people. And it will blow your fucking mind if you're a weird like reptile nerd fucking weirdo who like the first time I was at Tinley, it was like like all the people I've heard about are real. And it's stupid because they're all obviously just normal people. But
no, I am totally down with the drinking part. I'm just not down with the buying things part.
Yeah, like Brandon said, it's networking.
No, I'm not against that. I understand. That's what I'm saying that we're going for. We're going for the fun part.
Yeah.
So what the fuck is wrong with flying?
Yeah, because Friday night I want to be there.
You can fly and get there Friday night. There's more chance we're going to get there Friday night by flying than driving.
Yeah, if you're going to work on Friday.
Yeah, the issue is my job.
Yeah, that is an issue, huh? But, I mean, it is just an opportunity to talk to everyone that we've ever had on this podcast. Like, most people will be here will be there. Who we've had on, like, this podcast, people that we haven't met, people that we wanted to meet. It's just really the who's who of reptiles, and it's worth it to get out there. It used to be, Orlando used to be that show. But since like the interwebs and all that good stuff, Tinley is really the premier show to go to. I mean, there's really no other place to go to if you want to find not necessarily the best animals, because not everyone vends shows. So like some, even though people aren't vending, they'll still be around, you know, like I don't know of a better example than like Justin Kabelka. If you're into ball pythons, Justin may not be vending, but he'll be around. So you'll get to talk to him and you'll be like, hey, this is Justin Kabelka. Holy shit. So it doesn't even matter who's vending. You can look at the vendors list and be like, okay, yeah, that seems kind of cool. But and then there's going to be 3 times as many cool people there. Like there's going to be just as many cool people not vending as vending. So it's something that, I mean, every reptile person, it will be like what I felt the first time I went there was like, oh, finally there's a room of all of us together and like we can like everyone's super serious about this thing. You go to a local show, there's a lot of pet people looking for pets and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people just lollygagging around looking at stuff. Tinley is like, oh, these are all the people that are exactly like me. Like not only are they interested in reptiles, they are like fucking enthralled and obsessed with reptiles, and it consumes their whole life, and that's why they're at Tinley, which is like unique to any other show. And this is sponsored by Tinley by any RBC.
So if someone has a cousin, brother, mother, sister, lover who lives in,
if your side chick is in Chicago,
we have our own air mattress if someone has a floor.
yeah, I don't care how we do it, and I'm sure like we'll figure it out. When I first went there, Uber wasn't really a thing, so now that I know that Uber exists, I can be like, oh, we can get a shitty motel 20 miles out of town.
Do you know how expensive an Uber will be 20 miles?
No, what? But it's less than the fact is that the hotel is 100% sold out. That's a given. But if a friend wants to be a friend, then that would be excellent. But I mean, if we have to get a shitty motel somewhere else, we always can. I mean, there's always options. Or I would just sleep in the car, but you're not going to do that.
Excuse me?
I said I would just sleep. Oh, yeah, we're flying. We don't even have that option. See? We would have had a hotel built in if we drove.
I'm sorry, you're saying you sleep in the car. Where the hell are you going to shower, shit, and poop? That's the same thing. Where are you gonna?
Where am I gonna shit and where am I gonna poop? I don't know.
Sorry, where are you gonna do the other thing?
Shower, shave, and shit is like what you're supposed to say, but I don't. Where are you? Don't worry about us showering. This is not about us showering. This is not about hygiene. This is about going to Tinley. This has nothing to do with hygiene.
These people we look up to, and we're not gonna shower.
Listen, half of them are smelly anyway. Let's be honest.
Okay. Well, this is just a PSA to all our friends. Brandon Wheeler, Garrett Hurdle, Eric and Owen. Who else do we know?
Well, don't put the pressure
Katz,
on them. We're not begging.
People.
You're not supposed to beg. You're supposed to just put it out there very lightly.
If they have an area of room.
Like just a floor. Just a floor, guys.
It sounds so pitiful. But the crazy thing is it's in less than a month. Like, if we're trying to do this, we have
Darren Watson said we can shit at an IHOP, which is a very random place. I mean, you can shit at like any McDonald's too, but IHOPs work probably better.
But the thing is, it's in less than a month. We need to buy tickets now.
Yeah.
And tickets like
aren't cheap.
Not to get real, but like we don't have $400 to drop on tickets right now. So I'm not sure how this dream is going to become a reality. So guys, if you want
drugs. Wait, what? I was joking. I said I was going to sell drugs.
No, if you want snakes.
Oh, if you want snakes.
Something we actually have to sell. If you want snakes. I don't know why you went to drugs.
We have antibiotics for Lyme disease. It's doxycycline mono, 100 milligram tablets. You got to take them twice a day for 21 days.
And you're not supposed to drink alcohol on it.
And don't ever drink alcohol on it. / wash it down with alcohol. Oh, the tracks have been run off. That's for sure.
Okay.
We're not gonna. We're not going to humor Brandon's question because he knows the answer to that. I guess the thing is also at Tinley, you meet all the people no matter who they are. Where
Well,
there's
it's
no
been
filter.
interesting. I don't want to go down this road, but I'll go down it a little bit. You've been talking about how like last year is like all the people you really wanted to meet. And I wondered, do you think, has that changed?
Never meet your heroes. What do you mean?
Has that
Who? I'm trying to think.
I'm not specifically
because
I
met,
but I know personally for me, I had a feeling towards some people, and obviously now I don't have that feeling.
right.
And so, but I think I'm more of a bitch than you are.
No, I would like to talk to anyone and everyone. I really don't mind. And the fact is that I mean, everyone gets that facade broken at some time. Like, because you see people from different places, like especially reptile people. It is a weird thing to where you can build up someone in your mind who's really a very, very normal person, especially because even the most famous snake breeder is no one to the general public, right?
Right.
It's different if you like baseball, and obviously the biggest baseball player in the world is world famous.
Right.
But it's different in reptiles. So once you can go up to anyone and be like, hey man, I love this and this, and they'll be like, thanks. And they'll talk to you if you know what you're talking about. Like everyone's willing to talk to you, everyone's willing to meet you, but you do get that facade of someone's great and powerful, and then you learn more, and then it's like, oh, maybe I don't really care too much to meet people anymore. But
is there that thing at Tinley? Okay, I don't know how to phrase this, but like at other reptile shows, like in Dallas, there is obviously people who they're just like heard about the snake show and they're coming. They don't know any snakes, they don't know anything, whatever. And then obviously people who are very knowledgeable. And so whenever we go talk to someone new at the snake shows in Texas, it's always like that awkwardness of like, how do we let them know we know about snakes without sounding like complete douches?
Oh, so I know.
I'm saying, does that happen at Tinley? Is there a level?
There's still general public.
Okay, it's not expected that everyone kind of knows about.
So what she means is that like sometimes we will walk around and it's weird because that's kind of being an asshole, just thinking that you're better than the general public. But people treat you like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. And then you're like, of course I know that,
right?
Because we're not just a normal person, but you don't want to say that. But I mean, you kind of.
But I didn't assume at Tinley
if someone has like a black python project shirt on, I mean, clearly if I have a Bolin's python shirt on, you know something that at least what a Bolin's python is, which is better than most people.
Which I learned this weekend from Joe Rogan's post, by the way.
Yeah, don't even get into
fights
that.
We got in.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see because I always feel awkward in that situation. Even like when we go in like pet stores, that's when it's really awkward because they really dumb it down because most people,
because it's like usually like a 16-year-old telling me facts about something that are untrue and I don't know how to say no. I'm just like, oh
yeah. Joe doesn't ever correct them.
Yeah, no, I feel bad. But I mean, I try to, but I don't want to overdo it because then I seem like a dick. So I'll subtly do it a couple times, and then if they keep on going, I was like, all right, whatever, yeah,
cool, keep it at 95.
I'm such like a, there's people who want to educate the world about reptiles. Mm-hmm. I'm so like a path of least resistance kind of person.
I just walk away though. It just bothers me too much.
I know, it frustrates me. Like I try as much as I can until I realize that it's a lost cause, and I'm like, all right, have a good one.
Yeah,
I totally understand.
You don't say have a good one. You stay there and you entertain
I'll humor
them.
that shit a little bit.
You
stay
right. there. And I'm like, babe, say something. Like, what she's saying is wrong. And you just keep doing it.
But it's a weird mix between like, you don't want to be like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about because that's just rude as fuck. And I don't want to belittle anyone, and I don't know the good way to correct it while being constructive, while saying, hey, I actually know, because people try to correct them all the time, I'm sure. Probably. Especially with some real bullshit. Like Like they may be spewing a little bit of
Like
bullshit,
incorrectly correct them.
but like some real bullshit. Like they're sick of getting asked, is it venomous? Do you let them loose in your house? Fucking how
All
big
that kind of
does it only
stuff.
get as big as an enclosure? They get all the stupid questions. So they're like, this is just another stupid fuck trying to correct me, you know? So I don't want to be, it's hard. It's a delicate
Yeah.
game.
So I'm hoping at Tinley we don't feel the awkwardness and they just know that we know this little telepathy thing.
Well, no, it's that we're going to know a lot of, I mean, we're going to at least know enough to introduce ourselves properly. So what you're going to do is like, hello, say Travis Whistler. I don't know Travis Whistler at all, but I know that he'll be vending at Tinley. And I'm assuming that he's vending at Tinley because I saw him last time I was there. But I'm really like, oh, hey, Travis, I'm a corn snake breeder too. I've heard about you and all that stuff about the palmetto, blah, blah, blah. And then he'll be like, oh, okay. Like there's obviously an in to where you
so
can.
You gotta have your little prepared like line thing.
But I mean, that's what we do at regular shows too, because when we go to someone's table, what I do is talk about the blackheads and talk about how awesome they are and what line it is, blah, blah, blah. You know, like with that one particular guy at NERBC, then he's like, oh, okay, like you're one of us. You know what you know what a blackhead python is, like you're cool. You kind of have those little cues that you tell each other that you're like, okay, yeah, this guy's legit. Even if it's like, no matter what, there's like that ball python guy who has one white lip on his table or something like that, and that I don't talk about the Enchy spider, I talk about the white lip, and then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's
and then it's always fun for me once y'all go past the part where I know stuff,
and once people bring you in, which is hilarious.
No, it's really awkward then because it's funny because it's like I want them to know I know stuff, but obviously you know way more. So like we have this small 5-minute period where it's like both of us are engaged, and then y'all keep talking for like 10 minutes more, and I'm like, and they try to talk to us both, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what they're saying right now, and I just have the best like fake look in my head, like, oh, really? Okay. It's like just like you try to talk the most because then it goes past me. Which I'm worried also about Tinley because I feel like it's gonna be 2 minutes of stuff I know, and then the rest of it.
Well, the thing about Tinley is that even though it is the premier reptile show, you're still gonna see mostly ball python breeders. So
really? Okay.
So and then the guy who we're gonna be talking all that shit to is gonna be like Eric and Owen, and you're gonna be like, oh, okay, they know that I don't know,
so it's okay.
yeah. It's like, who else are we really gonna talk to on that deep of level at Tinley? Well, probably some corn snake people that I don't, because if people don't know, like I'm not involved in the corn snake community at all, which is kind of it's fucked up and it's unintentional, but it's just what happened. So yeah. Oh, Dallas is now in the chat after being
because he put the kids to bed. And now he's in the chat.
Well, that's not bad. 15 minutes to put the kids to bed. I mean, I don't know how kids work, but I heard it's hard to put them to bed.
Well, his kids are older, 6 and 9.
I don't know what that means. That's a baby to me.
Babe, come on.
Is that like a 2-year-old corn snake?
Think of Aaliyah and Maya.
Yeah. They just kind of do what
they just kind of go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
that's right.
You don't have to like read 7 million books and shit at that point.
Hey, I don't know.
Okay. It is past our time, and I want to go watch the Emmys. So let's end this. And I really want ice cream.
Oh, what? That place closes at 9:30.
I thought.
Well, I don't know. You better do some.
You also told me that dairy's gonna make me feel really sick.
Yeah, but you can get water ice. That's not dairy.
You know I'm going to go get a milkshake. Okay, in this podcast.
Hey, so thank you guys so much for listening. This is brought to you by NERBC Tinley Park.
Damn it, it did
Just
close
kidding.
At 9.
It has not. It did close at 9, so no ice cream for you. Thank you guys so much for listening. PortCityPythons.com. We have animals available. Port City Pythons. Thanks for joining us, Dallas, who is now in the chat. Thanks for joining us, all the people in the chat. What else do you have to say?
Keep a lookout on our website. We're gonna post some more tomorrow. If you want to house us at Tinley. Oh, also, check out this podcast called Reptile and Chill. Reptile and Chill.
Oh, true. We should have said it at the beginning.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
an
know why
asshole.
you did
Sorry,
it.
I didn't mean to actually do that.
We were on a UK podcast yesterday, and I don't want to spoil it, but it was a little quiz, Reptile Master quiz between us and the great people of NPR.
The
You
great.
can probably take a guess who won the quiz. But it was fun, and it was great to talk to some people across the pond.
And they speak funny, so you're gonna want to find out how they speak.
They don't speak like that. They're much
you
more
speak like-
crude. They're British. Is much more crude than that. This is our terrible British accents.
It's really bad. We gotta stop doing this, or we're just gonna end the show like this.
Yes, we are.
You fucking-
But
we've gone fucking off the
I
wire
don't
here.
think we shared it on our Port City Pythons Facebook page, but we will share that podcast we're on.
Oh, you're getting way out of it. That's really bad. You're losing it. You're losing it for sure. But we are on there.
We're on there. What was that? Actually,
We're on
You
there.
got
Let me
real
tell you.
country
That's
there.
the guy. That's the guy who got his nuts bitten by a gator. Let's bring this shit all back around. That's cousin Billy who took his nut out and got cracked down by a gator, man. Look at that dumb bitch don't even roll. You know what I mean?
So,
Woo! Woo! Brandon says the disaster outro is back.
Oh.
That's so
but
true.
go listen to that podcast that we're on and support our friends Danny and Dan and Mike. We will share it on
And
our
Eric
page.
and Owen are on there too.
And Eric and Owen, but they don't need support. They already got enough. They got way more.
Eric's
than
probably our only listener at this point,
Shut
so
up.
you're getting real salty.
No. Oh God.
Oh fuck! How do I end it? Oh no! I'm gonna pee. I gotta pee.
You declared that.
But this is the
that was
longest
something
outro of all
exceptional.
time.
Like I'm going to pee. Like that's what you do every 15 minutes anyway.
Wow. Okay. Don't tell people about my overactive bladder on national radio cast.
Oh my God.
What the fuck? This needs to end.
Okay.
All right. See you guys later.
Thank you everyone for watching. Obviously, we are not going to tell you who's on next week because that will fudge.
Oh yeah, we
ourselves.
told who was going to be on the podcast on Reptile and Chill, and they're clearly
They
not on the
weren't here
podcast. So.
because our curse is real. We are cursed in so many facets of our
And I
life.
so much thank Dallas for coming on like we just messaged Dallas today. It was like, come on.
You didn't have
and-
to tell the people that.
No, but I'm glad that I'm saying
He's a good friend.
he's a good friend
And
for
he was
coming
a
on
great
at the end of
person
the
to
day.
talk to. And
Exactly.
we learned a lot of things that like we don't know about. And yeah.
We
About like the bones and stuff.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
gotta sneeze. Wait me not.
Oh my, what are we doing? We were trying to end this. Stop talking about your sneeze.
Well, you get mad at me when I sneeze with the mics on. So I was
Oh my god. Well, you were supposed to say bye and then maybe sneeze.
sorry.
Oh fuck. If anyone's still listening, it's a fucking miracle. All right. See you when you message us about keeping us in your hotel in Tinley.
Great plug there. That was great.
Talk to you when you reach
Bye.
out.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks. Love you
Later.
guys.
Bye.